Yeah, let's go over my banlist prediction for tomorrow. I think it should be, right? I think it was the 15th. Banlist, especially in the context of Telements, because you know me, I love my milling, edgy mermaids, fusion summoning from the back, shuffling back some shit, you know. Um, However, I think we should talk about certain cards because the banlist will bring certain changes that we can almost be certain of. And I think the card that we definitely can start with is that Beatrice is getting banned. The Fiendsmith engine made this card just way too good because now every deck has access to Beatrice that doesn't lock itself into certain things. And if you have a deck like Snake Eye that can dump a starter and then revive it in their own combo later on, it's just way too good. Because Beatrice and the Fiendsmith engine just give way too much gas and way too much power to push through hand traps, to push through interactions, to keep on comboing. And I don't think that's healthy for the game if you pair it with 20 non-engine slots. So Beatrice is definitely a card that's getting banned because it shouldn't be splashable in every deck. I think decks that have to go through hoops, like Telements actually. I personally think that Beatrice in Telements is quite a fair card. You have to mill a malicious, you have to use a malicious, you have certain choke points that make it harder, you have to commit to a fusion, for example to a Garura or a Dangerous to make a Beatrice. You don't just have to activate Tracked. Well, technically in Fiendsmith Telements, but there it's more of a Fiendsmith problem, right? Other cards I think, without a doubt, Calamity and Sanctifier should go. If Sanctifier would have had the clause that it just negated all types of effects of the cards he summon, then you could argue, yeah, you need him to play around evenly, but yeah, it's just like, I think this one thing about the card that they forgot to add, and just starting to ban every target will not help, because one day there will be another archetype that locks into something, and it will, by chance, meet the criteria for example, Grungoniol to be dumped, and then just later on you will get locked by the Sanctifier. So banning Sanctifier is just, it's banning the root of the cause of the problem, right? It's no good to just ban all targets for Sanctifier, because at the end of the day it just also really compromises Konami in being able to design cards. And another extra deck staple I think could get banned is Appaloosa, because it's just way too easy to make nowadays. Again, the Fiendsmith engine helps. This is the card that I think could not be touched. It's kind of a 50-50 depending on how Konami feels, because we started with Baron and Savage, so we see Konami definitely is not afraid to ban Omni Negates. However, I would argue that Apo is super generic and a lot of decks can make her, but a Monster Negate for like most of the time 2 right now is less worse than the Baron Omni Negate that can also tag out and pop a card. But we will see about Apo. I would definitely be not sad if Apo gets banned. Now, another problem deck is Snake Eyes. I think if we ban the Flamberge Dragon, we will get rid of a lot of problems of the deck. We will get rid of its recursion. If we combine it with limits, for example, we will get rid of its ability to play through hand traps. We will take out a lot of gas from the deck, without making it unplayable as like a small package, for example in Fire King, that still lack the Volcanics. So I think if Konami wants to push Fire King again with its third spring by releasing the Volcanics, they should let original Sympho Spoils and, like for example, Bonfire Poplar or like Ash Poplar be legal, just to push those type of decks. Another card I could see banned is the Lurry, actually, for the Fiendsmith engine, as Lurry just enables so much, and Lurry is like the most reasonable hit right now. The rest of the stuff is just way too new. Lurry would cut off like access to the engine for like a lot of decks. Fiend decks would still be able to utilize the Fiendsmith engine, but it would shut off like Tracked being a full combo for the Beatrice lines or like the rank 6s, because if we just ban Beatrice, decks like Snake Eye could just say, okay, well, you know what, then I'm just well, put a Caesar first on board and then start playing my normal combo, and that's still nothing I want to deal with, to be fair. So yeah, Larry, a card that I could see getting banned. Maybe we could talk also about banning some Ubel stuff, but I would actually wait out, because I mean it's 4 months from now that we will then get the final December ban list. So I think I can deal with 4 months of Ubel if we also hit like Fiendsmith and some other cards accordingly. And it won't be as bad as like the Snake Eye stuff was. Then for Floodgates, I think Anti-Spell is the next to go. We limited it to 1, and following the example of the other Floodgates being first limited to 1 and then forbidden, I think Anti-Spell is definitely the next to go. And a bit of a hot take, I think Terraforming can go or should go, because every hit to a deck with a field spell that is not forbidden, I'm sorry, what would it be called actually? Forbidding the field spell is just less valuable if Terraforming exists, because you still are going to have 2 copies of it. And I think just outright banning certain cards is always a bad look for Konami, right? Having to admit you made a field spell so broken that you had to ban it. But also just limiting it to 1 isn't as big of a deal if you still have Terraforming and cards like the Rainbow Bridge, for example. But once again, ban Beatrice, then you don't have really a problem with Rainbow Bridge, and just have Terraforming as always a 2nd or 3rd or 4th copy of a card. So just ban Terraforming. It's banned in the OCG. I think it's definitely banned in Master Duel, and I think it's reasonable to argue about banning Terraforming, especially moving forward to my limited section, because I can see Sangan Summoning actually getting limited, and with Terraforming still legal, that would still be 2 copies. So I think banning Terraforming and then limiting Sangan is definitely the way to go. If you want to hit the deck, you can play 20 non-engine slots, being 15 hand traps and 6 board breakers, for example. That would actually be 21, but you know what I mean. So you just have so many non-engine and so little of engine that you don't need like also a field spell that makes everything you do unaffected by your opponent's effects. Snacker Ash, as I said, is another card I think we should definitely hit. Putting Snacker Ash to 1 just takes away the biggest part of the follow-up, which would be just being able to perform your combo over and over again. Also limiting Flame Birch isn't really that big of a deal, because most lists only run 1 nowadays anyways, so yeah. Skill Drain being then the next Floodgate to go to 1, as well as the 2 Bystials, because I personally think that Bystials right now are in a good spot again, and if we don't want to deal with Bystials for the end of our lives, we should preemptively hit them, because there always will be a place for Bystials, even if it's just to take out an IP or to prevent dark plays with Dark the Dark Charmer, and Druid's Womb and Sorneer being the strongest 2 that we still have at 3. I think Baldrake is the least problematic of them all, because he's only really good when you pair him with other cards, for example other Bystials or like a Nibiru token or whatever. Druid's Worm just, well, being the 2nd best Bystial, and Sorneer being the one that gives cards like decks like Dragonlings more consistent access to Lubellion, and with a lot of new good Drang support cards coming out, for example the new Link 1 from Blue Eyes, or the new Tachyon Galaxy Eyes stuff, and even like the Metalmorph stuff. I think Drangling will get huge amounts of support, so I think hitting Bystials preemptively is definitely arguable. And now, if we would move on forward to a format in power level terms of, like, for example, Duelist Nexus format, I think we could talk about limiting Planet actually. T-Limits has a lot of ways to access Planet and is still playable with just 1 planet, and I think T-Limits could really become oppressive if we just hit everything. So maybe you could argue about Planet. However, and now this is going to be a scandalous take, I would only say it's reasonable to hit Planet if we bring back Kid Kalos, Free My Girl Kid. I know it's a lot of copium, but I think that we have so many cards right now that are so powerful, and we brought back Colossus, we brought back Protoss, that I think bringing Kid Kalos back in the near future is actually reasonable. I would really like to see her, and I think this trade is a good trade-off for Telemans. It's also pretty fair if we take away one of the best cards and get one copy of our best card back, as long as we don't overdo it. So keep the Shufflers at 1, keep the Millers limited, forbidden, sorry. Actually would be reasonable to bring back Kid. Another card I could see limited or semi-limited is Crossout. Crossout definitely found its format, and we saw how good this card was in outing floodgates, in outing hand traps, in just protecting combo. So I think Crossout is definitely the next staple that could get touched by the ban list. And 2 other quick play spells I want to see touched. Just the Runic tip. I think we should hit Runic a bit. I don't think we should like outright kill the engine. It's still like a pretty cool gimmick that the engine has, but you know, those random one-off banishes are just so annoying. And we have a lot of good decks right now that can play the Runic engine. We still have Sprite at basically full power. We have the Ice Barrier stuff, we have a White Woods, which is the most promising, and we have Runic Stun being an actual meta threat. So I really would love to see some slaps against Runic, like Tip to 1 and Fountain to 1, for example. But right now this tip is just on the list representing the Runic engine in general. And I think, yeah, Wanted is not going to get banned because it's part of the lore, but getting a consistency against Wanted and Black Witch when the Azamnia or Azamina cards are going to come out should definitely be done preemptively to prevent Snake Eye keeping its status as the best deck, because they just fill out all the holes with Azamina and Snake Eye cards and Fiendsmith cards. So yeah, this is my limited section. I think it's pretty reasonable to argue. Maybe you could include like limiting the Phantom of Yubel, or like also semi-ing Nightmare Throne, but Yubel is not like the deck that I'm the most concerned about right now, because if we look at the recent OCG meta breakdown, it was falling out, it fell off so hard. Yeah, I think with all of the Malchamis, Phantom is also getting worse, and Rise of the Abyss. So maybe Yubel is a deck that can, with hits to the Fiendsmith engine, be balanced solely by just the card pool that is available, without having to actually put their engine on the ban list. Moving forward to the semi-limits, I see 4 cards that could potentially get semi'd, and I think 2 cards that could get cancelled. So starting off with Dimension of the Dreadful Dolls, again, non-interaction allowing field spells, super toxic, FTK deck, even worse. So just putting this card to 2 and banning Terraforming, I think, should seal the deal. I don't think that you have to ban it or limit it, but I just think we should at least hit the consistency a bit, maybe even limiting the card. But yeah, Gimmick Puppets aren't like the tier 1 threat you would expect a FTK deck to be, so it's fine. It's just to make a point about the Terraforming. Shifter gets a lot worse at 2, because this card lives or dies with you being able to just keep your grave clean and see him in your opening hand. And if you top deck Shifter after using an Ash on your opponent's turn, this card is just so bad it feels like you hand looped yourself because you drew nothing, basically, unless, well, free discard fodder kind of. But Shifter is a card that should be touched. I don't think that Shifter should stay at 3, it's really toxic. I would love to see it banned, but there are certain decks that just would also get hit by a Shifter hit, so maybe putting it to 1 or 2 is fine. It's still a problem card, but I don't think Konami is gonna ban Shifter. A Pank can't stay at 2. I think there's no point. He doesn't even see that much play, and it doesn't matter if Fenrir is just the better card, and if we get rid of all the floodgates, there's also no reason to play Pank over Fenrir really, because that's the main deal with Pank, being able to clear skill drain, being able to clear certain floodgates. The most controversial card, I think, next to the Kid Killers on this list is going to be Merly. Merly is, I think, the worst name without Elf that we have. Sharon is just, you know, a rank 4 enabler, and Havness is the in-engine hand trap, but I think Merly could technically come back to 2. She always was like the worst and the only you would have seen being cut. Hani cut her to 2, for example, during his YCS Pasadena run, and I think Telements could definitely get back something. If it's not like Kid, then it should definitely be like Merly. And especially if we like decide to limit Pearl Rhino preemptively, because we're preparing for a low-powered format where we don't want to see Telements again terrorizing the metagame, then I think that is actually fine to bring back Merly to 2. Yeah, I just want to see here getting a bit more play, as right now it really struggles, and I think decks like Virtual World and Stun got way more tops than Telements did the whole year. I think I saw exactly one with Felix Pfeiffer at the German Open, who won the event with Telements, and that was like all the appearances Telements had this year. So yeah, just give us back some toys. And for the unlimited section, super boring, but I think neither SP nor the Moon need to get hit. SP was a very OCG thing to do. I think right now she's fine. Maybe in the future, in a not so near future, in like 4 or 5 years, you could talk about SP. I think Moon is fine as long as we like hit other good Fiendsmith cards. There's no real need for her, because, as I said, if you play 2 to 3 tracked, 3 engraver, you see the Fiendsmith engine in your opening hand a lot, and having Moon, give or take, is not the thing that makes this engine so busted. It's like the constant access, it's the Necro Quip. It's, of course, Moon is a part of the problem, but it's like not the biggest part of the problem. So I think Moon is not gonna get banned. She has a cool gimmick, and I don't think that it's reasonable to ban Moon if we allow cards to Lurry to run free. So yeah, Moon not getting banned. OSS, again, it's a one-off anyways. I don't think they're gonna touch it if they want to promote cards like the Rescue Ace stuff or the Fire King stuff, especially with concerns to the tins coming out soon. And then Fenrir again, if he gets moved, it doesn't matter in the context of Telements if he's at 3, 2 or 1, because most of the time you're playing 2 at max anyways if you don't just outright cut him. So yeah, I don't think that they're gonna touch Fenrir at this point in time. To be honest, if they wanted to ban or limit Fenrir, they already would have done it. There were plenty of options. But again, we don't know if Konami's preparing for a lower powered format to let Blue Eyes shine at the beginning of next year maybe. If they want to like use this and the next Banlist to just prepare Dune 2.0 or like TOS 2.0 for example. So who knows. Yep, this is like the whole Banlist. You can just zoom out a bit. I know there are a lot of controversial takes, but I'm already labbing out stuff for like Telements, because in the context of Telements I think that Beatrice being banned of course does hurt the deck, but the level 6 or the rank 6 build of Tier can just, well, convert to a Link spam build with like the Melees, Shayamas, or they just play Pilgrim Reaper, because a lot of Pilgrim Reaper combos are still quite valuable. So you will see what the Banlist tomorrow brings, or like in the next few days. And as soon as it hits, I'm gonna go to the kitchen and start cooking a new tier list. So see you soon.